It's time for the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. Stay tuned as we discuss local and national sports from Southeast Missouri and beyond. The Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle is brought to you by Royal Retros. If you like cool throwback jerseys of defunct sports teams, Royal Retros is the place to buy. If you go to royalretros.com and you order with the code SPORTSDESK, all one word, you can get a little bit off your order. So check out Royal Retros. And now on with the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And welcome to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. I'm Mike Bueller, snowed in out here at the cabin north of Poplar Bluff.
I'm Mark Sanders, suffering the effects of cabin fever.
And I'm Kyle Roberts, wishing Sean McVay took the points.
Oh, wow.
All do.
We have got a hopping, jumping show this week. We're having to do things very different. We are on our third string recording plan. Usually we record at our original library studios, but thanks to the snow and ice, they're closed this week. Plan B would be to record, at Mark's office. That's closed this week. So we are on plan C. We are doing everything via teleconference. So we are going to do things a little different today. But we've got a very full show. We are going to be joined by a couple of special guests in a little bit. Woodland basketball coach Shawn Kinder and his son, senior standout Korbin Kinder. But we are going to dive in right now and start talking about some highlights of high school basketball from last week. Mark, you got to go to a couple of really good games last week. I'm going to lead off with your game last Friday that you were at, Puxico at Bernie, a game in which Landan Burchard had one of the most outstanding performances of the year, hands down. And I'll let you go from there.
Yeah, it was really remarkable. Bernie was just playing absolute shutdown defense, just within the 3-point arc. I mean, it's like they could not get any penetration, but they didn't need to because Landan Burchard was hitting 3-pointers at will. And I don't mean like from the line. I mean like 3-4 steps behind the line. These big arching 3-pointers. I mean, like way up in the rafters of the gym and just splashing them down, nothing but net. And it was such an exciting game there at the Bernie High School gym. It's a very small gym. If you're familiar with Poplar Bluff, it's smaller than our junior high gym. So if you can think about the Poplar Bluff Junior High Gymnasium, all those of you who grew up in Poplar Bluff, Bernie's gym is even smaller than that. And it was pretty much evenly divided between Bernie fans and Puxico fans. So anytime either side would do anything, the gym would just erupt. I mean, it was deafeningly loud the entirety of the game. Both teams just absolutely played their heart out. But, I mean, obviously Landan Burchard was the difference in that game. Just unstoppable. And really towards the end of the game, Bernie had no choice but to foul to try to get more possessions as time was running out. The only person that they could foul was Burchard, and he went. This is unbelievable. He went to the free throw line 19 times over the course of the game, and he was 18 for 19.
Oh, wow.
Charity. Yeah, just an amazing performance. Of course, Jet Hancock for Puxico also made a great contribution. On the Bernie side, 6'5" forward John Aycock did everything within his power to keep Bernie in that game, and Puxico just got the edge. But it was very exciting, and would not be at all surprised to see these two square up again in the Stoddard County tournament, weather permitting, when they're going to be able to play that. And of course, they've also got the OFC tournament and then Misha districts coming up. So a lot of exciting basketball in Stoddard County coming up in the next couple of weeks. We can just get the temperature up enough to melt all this snow and ice.
That would be great. Mark, you got to see another really outstanding game on last Thursday, a girls' game. Kennett was at Twin Rivers, and that game had, some really outstanding things and had a very just, almost like a highlight film finish. I'll let you tell me about that one.
Yeah, that was real close throughout. Kennett had a 5 or 6 point lead in the first half, and Twin Rivers whittled that down to a 3 point lead at halftime. They extended that lead right out of the third to 10 points, and then just went ice cold on their offense. And Kennett just started scraping away. They took a lead in the fourth quarter. The Lady Royals came back to tie that game, and then even held the last possession with about 10 seconds left. So their plan was to make a final shot to win the game. Unfortunately, the Kennett point guard,
Elise Edwards.
Yes, thank you. Anyway, she stole the ball at the top of the key on the Twin Rivers side, ran all the way down the court for a buzzer beater layup and a 46-44 victory for the Lady Indians.
That's pretty legit. And Elise Edwards is one of the best girls basketball players in the area. She's the two-time SEMO Conference Player of the Year. Won it as a freshman, won it as a sophomore. She's right in the hunt to win it again this year. That's pretty legit. What's your impression of her, having got to see her play?
Oh, I mean, she's absolutely all over the court. You wouldn't think that she was their best player because, frankly, she's just not very tall. She's the shortest player on the court, but she's also the most dynamic. She can shoot from outside. She's lightning quick. Plays great defense. I mean, she plays way above her height, and clearly she is the team leader out there. So yeah, all credit to her.
Good deal. And another thing I want to focus on real quick. Poplar Bluff Mules, right before the snow, went up to Arnold this past Friday night. Played Fox, got a win up there, beat them 69-52. I'm going to pull up some stats from that real quick. And that was a really nice bounce back win for the Mules. Dallas Williams had a really nice night with 18 points. Two other guys were in double figures, J.R. Lathan and Justin Briscoe. And that's a nice win for the Mules to get, especially with them diving into the heart, of SEMO conference play. They've got big games coming up with Cape Central, with Sykeston, and that's a really good little momentum game for them.
Yeah, and it's like Will Durden said to me after their home loss to Jackson, they really just need to focus on defense. That is the key to the Mules game. Is they can play tough defense, then they can score in transition. If they let up on the defense, especially against a good team like Jackson or Sykeston coming up, it's going to be more of a struggle for them to run with the high-scoring teams. So it's just a matter of discipline and playing the game that Coach Durden wants them to play. And I think if they do that, they've got the chance to pull off some upsets here as we draw closer toward the end of the season.
Indeed, and we are getting into the home stretch of the season. One bit of good news, the roads have cleared a little bit, and if everything works out, the Stoddard County tournament is going to start tomorrow night over in Bloomfield, and that should wrap up next Wednesday. So they are going to get it in. And on that note, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will be joined by Shawn Kinder from Woodland High School and his son, Korbin Kinder, here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers College women's basketball coach Alex Wiggs, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And welcome back to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. I'm Mike Bueller, and we are joined today by Woodland High School basketball coach Shawn Kinder and his son Korbin. Guys, welcome to the show.
Yes, we're excited to be here. We appreciate you having us.
Like I was saying earlier, you guys have had a really great run these last couple of years. You went to the Final Four last year. You won the Stoddard County Conference last year. This year, you just had the one loss to Jackson. You're the top seed going into the county tournament. What's it been like, first of all?
It's been awesome. It's been fun. These kids have been awesome to work with. I've said this for the last couple of years. These kids have been together for so long; they just know each other so well, and we've been together for some time, and it just seems like things have just kind of started clicking the last 2 or 3 years for this group, and they're starting to put some things together. And we're looking forward to the rest of the season. Hope maybe we can put some things together and make a good run again at the end of the year.
What has been some of the keys to your success these last couple of years?
Really just the continuity and the kids being so familiar with each other. These kids trust each other. They play for each other. They make sacrifices on the floor, for each other consistently. We've got a lot of guys can do a lot of different things. They're pretty diverse on the floor there, and there's times they just give it up, make the extra pass, set the extra screen, just do what we got to do to try to get the team win.
Corbin, I have a question for you. What's it been like being part of this these last few years?
I think it's definitely almost kind of surreal because growing up, like we've had the dreams of like going to the Final Four, and we've all like talked about it, but we never, I guess, really thought that we'd be as good as we are now, if I'm being honest. And just seeing all the hard work just like come up and just show itself is just it's really nice to see it that all the hard work's finally starting to pay off.
Good deal. What stands out to you, Corbin? What stands out the most to you about this team?
I think just the bond, honestly, we share. I feel like kind of what my dad said earlier. Like I just feel like there's several kids on the team who could go for 20 either night, and we know whoever is hitting that night to get them the ball and feed them the ball, because another night it's going to be one of the other players off the team. And I just think that just the bond we share is honestly the main thing that helps us through adversity and through the season.
Good deal, Coach. And that's one thing Corbin said is you have several people that can get it done for you. Corbin's not the only one that can really step up. I know you've had some games where you've had some other kids step up. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we got Corb, we got Calvin Layton, we got Jackson Shot, we got Cameron McCormick. Even guys coming off the bench have been giving us big minutes and big numbers. Peyton Meek, I thought, had a fantastic game against Jackson at the Christmas tournament there. I thought he played well against Cape Central. We just got a lot of guys can get buckets. We've got 3 guards that can flat shoot it at any point and put it on the floor. And my with Cameron McCormick, he does a good job, manning the paint, and he's got good feet, good hands. It's just like Corb said, these guys, they can score a lot of different ways. They can put points on the board, and really the scoring opportunities and options that we have has never been really our focus. This year we've really just focused more on our defensive effort and rebounding because we're not very big, so we gotta play very well on that end to control the boards.
I feel like one game that was really kind of the defining game for y'all this season was when you played Dexter last month. That was a really, really big, impressive win. You guys fought hard. Coach, tell me about that game.
Well, Dexter, I felt like outplayed us until the last 30 seconds, 15 seconds of the game. Really, I mean, they come to our house and we didn't shoot it very well. That was a night that we didn't shoot it as well, and we kept attacking. We got them in foul trouble, which kind of gave us a chance, an opportunity there towards the end of even being in the game. So it was just it was a game where they had a couple decisions down the end that kind of helped us a lot to secure that, and it's just the game of basketball. I guess that's the reason you play it for 32 minutes. It's one of those things that anything can happen. You gotta stay close when you're not hitting shots, give yourself a chance to win, and that's what the boys did.
There you go, Corbin. What stood out to you about that game?
Honestly, the fact that we didn't quit through the whole game. Like I know there was times that we didn't even lead until like 0.3 seconds on the clock, and I just think I just think seeing that and not backing down from adversity the whole game and just keep pushing, and we came out the win and it showed off.
Good deal. Coach, what do you guys have to do to succeed the rest of the season to win another district title and to get back to state?
We got to continue to improve. I feel like on the defensive end is really where our focus has been the last couple of weeks. We do score so well, and at times, I feel like we've taken possessions off on the defensive end, just not having that focus or that intensity, and that's kind of been our focus. So if we can continue to do that and control the boards, rebounding on both ends. We crash the offensive glass pretty hard for a small team, but the defensive glass sometimes we struggle. We let teams have multiple opportunities on certain possessions, and that's going to be key for us down the stretch. You get in the heart of our district in Class 3, you play against a lot of athletic teams that can go, and it's going to be important for us to make sure that we're fundamentally sound and being disciplined on the glass.
There you go, Corbin. And I have the same question for you. What do you guys have to do to bring home another district title and get back to the state tournament?
I think mainly we got to focus on our defense, kind of like my dad said, and then rebounding. I think rebounding is a big thing that we got to focus on with our size. I don't think we don't have a guy on varsity who is taller than 6'4", and the rest of them, that's the tallest player, and the rest are under 6 foot. But I think defense, and I think just we got to keep everybody's mind on the goal at the end of the season. Like, I know there's different things that are going on in people's minds and what they want throughout the season, but I think the ultimate goal that everybody wants is to make it back to that Final Four, and I think if we keep everybody on that track, that there's a good chance we can get there.
And there you go. And that is Woodland coach Shawn Kinder and Korbin Kinder here on the sports desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers men's basketball coach Robert Kirby, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And we are back on the sports desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. And since we are recording a little later than we usually do, we are going to get to talk about Wednesday night's Raiders and Lady Raiders basketball games. Mark, and I'll let you ask me about this real quick. Raiders and Lady Raiders are having a really great year. They're both nationally ranked, combined record of 36-8. And that's just, it's been a while since they've both been that good. It's been almost a decade since the men have been off to this kind of start.
They're currently sitting at 17-5, which, I mean, we're looking back at the heyday of Gene Bess's career. It's the last time that they had a record like this. Their offense is humming. They're scoring almost 80 points a game. They're currently on a 6-game win streak, currently sitting at 10-2 at home with a 3-2 road record. Like to see that road record improve as we continue on through the season. But just looking at January, we've got wins against Moberly, at State Fair, at Mineral Area, which is huge, and that was a decisive win, 13 points. Crushed the Bears at MSU West Plains. We scored 90 in that game. And then a big win last night against State Fair Community College. So even though Three Rivers College is closed, Three Rivers basketball has been open for business, and business is booming. So tell me about the men's team, first of all.
Last night, the Raiders got a really nice win. It was a 67-49 win, and it was not that close. That was a game in which the Raiders led by 30 points or more late in the game, and then, quite frankly, we just called off the dogs, which is a nice thing you can do when you've got that big of a lead. And the Raiders right now are sitting 5-0 in the region. So that's a huge win for them, because basically region basketball for the Raiders now is done in 3 blocks, because we play all our 4 region opponents 3 times in a season. We've already played them once each and swept those 4 games. And this time around, we're in a stretch where, most of these games are on the road. We've got a really big road trip coming up, that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But one person I want to recognize last night is Matt Hampton. Matt Hampton was a rebound shy of having a triple double. He had 12 points, 9 rebounds, and 10 assists. That's a pretty legit game. There's a reason he was a third team All American last year and why he's one of the leading contenders to win the Region 16 Player of the Year this year. Um, you know, Switching gears a bit, the Raiders do have two very big road games coming up. Saturday and Monday they go to Mac. That's a place. We have struggled. The last time we beat Mineral Area at Mac was in 2019. That was almost 7 years ago.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
Mac
going.
too, so they're going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough place. And then we're going to follow that up by heading to Moberly on Monday, a game that was supposed to be played last weekend, but was fell victim to the winter storm. So we've got Mac and Moberly within 48 hours of each other. Those are going, well, actually maybe more like 50 hours of each other, but still, that's going to
Yeah,
be arguably our toughest region stretch of the year, if not our toughest stretch of the year, period. Those are two wins. We are absolutely going to have to play our best to even have a good shot of winning even one of them. Um, we're going to have to earn it. And it's going to be interesting.
yeah, it's going to be a real test. I don't know what the logistics of what our team will do, but it seems like if they're playing Saturday, like 4 p.m. start, so Saturday afternoon at Mineral Area, I suppose that they could come back to Bluff on Saturday night, and then just travel on Monday to Moberly. But that is a lot. That is a lot of travel. It's about an hour and a half more or less. So let's just call it a 2-hour trip to Park Hills and back, and then Moberly's up in the middle of nowhere. That's at least 6 or 7 hours on a bus. Maybe
Yeah,
a little bit more.
because that's just north of Columbia. But we've saved the best for last. Not that the Raiders didn't have a great night, but the Lady Raiders had a pretty big achievement of their own. They not only did they avenge their only region loss of the season against State Fair last night, they handed State Fair their first loss period. State Fair came into this game 20-0, and the Lady Raiders knocked them from the ranks of the unbeaten.
Yay, good job. All right. Also, something else that we need to mention connected to the Lady Raiders is that head coach Alex Wiggs got his 150th career win I think since the last time we broadcasted.
Yes, and that's pretty impressive. And you know what? I think in some ways, Coach Wiggs is still a little bit unheralded. I know that women's sports don't always get the attention that men's sports do, but what Coach Wiggs has done with the Lady Raiders is pretty impressive. I mean, 5 straight trips to the national tournament. That's a school record. Not even Coach Bess did that with the men's team. 150 wins, 20 losses. I don't have the winning. It's a winning percentage not too far under 900. Um, those are impressive achievements. The Lady Raiders are 19-3 this year, and as good as we've been of late, some people may be thinking that that's a little bit of an off year for us. And you know what? You're doing something right with your program when 19-3 is considered to be a little bit off your pace.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you believe that? Not 19-3, and everyone's like, well, what's wrong with the ladies this time?
Yeah.
Well, and I keep drawing this parallel. The season that the Donovan Donettes went undefeated in the regular season, they never even made it to the state Final Four. But then they followed that up with a couple of regular season losses, and then went through the playoffs to win the whole thing. You learn a lot when you lose in the regular season. You learn what you need to work on. You learn what your opponents throw at you. you see your strengths and weaknesses and how that actually works on the court. It's fun to just go out and beat the brakes off of every team that you face, but you're not going to get any better unless you face some stiff competition and even lose some games, because, that's how you learn how to win. It's like the last time we played this team, this is what they did to us. This is how they stopped us in the paint. This is how, they responded to our perimeter scores, whatever it is that you're looking at. It's trial by fire. You're tested by your challenges. So I think that bodes really well to us, because we just haven't gotten over that hump in the national tournament. And I think everyone is just waiting for that to happen. It's not a matter of if, but a matter of when.
Indeed. And the Lady Raiders also have a couple of big region games coming up. Like the men, they are headed to Mac Saturday afternoon, and then they are headed to Moberly on Monday evening. Mac's women's team may not be as nasty tough on our schedule as the men's team has, but that's a tough place to win. And that's a game that Mineral Area, you can be sure, is going to give us everything they want. It is also Mineral Area's homecoming. So their men and women are both going to be fired up. That's a game that we better go in and play, because they are very, very capable of beating us. Same with the Moberly women. They're not as good as maybe they've been the last few years. But that's not a game you want to go into thinking, hey, we've got this in the bag, because if we do, we'll go in there and get beat. So we're going to have to earn it. And,
Yeah.
we still have to play. Go ahead.
Yeah, it really is. It's our big regional rivalry. If you think Cardinals, Cubs, or Yankees, Red Sox in baseball, think football, Vikings, Packers. We'll pay some lip service to Kyle. Rams, Niners. the team that's basically in your backyard, that you hate to lose to and that you always want to beat. That is Three Rivers against Mineral Area.
That's right. And that's actually going to be a nice lead into the fact we're going to talk about football when we get back here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers College women's basketball coach Alex Wiggs, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And we are back on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle, and we are going to talk a little bit of the NFL. We had the conference championship this past weekend. Two very intense games that both went to the wire. New England Patriots went into Denver and got a hard-fought win. The Seattle Seahawks got a hard-fought win over Kyle's Los Angeles Rams. Guys, we got a few minutes to talk about those, and I'll let you go from there.
Both of those games are a great example of the negative implications of the Dan Campbell effect. Dan Campbell, the head coach of the Detroit Lions, comes in, always goes for it on fourth down. You could almost clear up a roster spot by not having a punter on this team. He's always going for it on fourth down, even in the red zone. It's like, no, we want TDs, we don't want field goals. And the NFL is a copycat league, and it bit both of the losing teams in the conference championships.
Yes,
by
it did.
By going for it on fourth down rather than kicking a field goal, Denver Broncos could have gone up 10-0 against a New England team that was doing absolutely nothing on offense and did absolutely nothing on offense the entire game. Their only touchdown came as a result of one of the worst turnovers you'll ever see. I mean, it's just epically bad. Backward pass, fumble, interception, whatever you want to call it, from Jared Stidham. But if head coach Sean Payton had just chosen a gimme field goal to go up 10-0, then we're talking about the Broncos in the Super Bowl. Not as sure for the Rams, but I was screaming at the television. They're down 31-27. It's fourth down deep in Seattle territory. Kick, and there's about 2.5 minutes remaining. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I think it was somewhere around there. They still had all of their timeouts. Kick a field goal. You make it 31-30. Have your defense stop Seattle, which they actually did. They did have the ball with time remaining. But at that point, if you're only down 31-30, all you have to do is get it to the 35-yard line. Thicker kicker comes in and wins the game for you. Instead, you're putting all of the pressure on Matthew Stafford. You have to score a touchdown. And Seattle's defense is too good. I mean, they were playing, they were double covering everyone in the secondary. There was no way that they were going to score a touchdown at the end. And it's ideal that you're setting up for game-winning field goals, because teams will always play, that soft underneath defense. They're trying not to give up a home run, and that's Stafford's specialty, is just hitting those quick slants and those daggers down the middle. They could have moved into field goal range in about 20 seconds, but it didn't set up that way because they went for it on fourth down. Stop doing that. Take the points.
You sound like me, and I would just like to make a public statement that I am still in mourning. I'm head to toe in black, so I'm not in a good mood. Yeah. However, when have any of us ever known Sean McVay and the term bad clock management to go hand in hand?
This is I'm gonna pull from one of the classic action movies of the 80s, the original Top Gun. Son, your brain is writing checks that your body can't cash. I mean, that is what these coaches are doing. They're putting themselves, they're basically making it harder for their own teams to win, just from this desire to go for it on fourth down. It's like, hey, let's lower those testosterone levels, fellas. It's okay to kick a field goal and win the game.
Yeah, it doesn't make you any lesser. Let's play the smart game. And in Denver's case, especially in Denver's case, that's the difference. They literally lost by 3 points. You had to know going into that game with Jared Stidham as you're going in to over Bo Nix in that weather, and especially in the second half, the way that the field just got saturated with snow. You had an excellent opening drive. Couldn't have started any better. It was picturesque. Marks right down the field. You've got momentum. Defense is playing great. And then you have another drive. You have a first and goal to go situation. You get in the fourth and goal, and you go for it when you have no margin for error with your current offensive situation. You go for it.
Yeah.
And don't get it.
No, and you go for it. You on third and fourth down, you put the ball in Stidham's hands instead of running it. It's Denver has a lot of strengths, but they need it. They need a better running back than R.J. Harvey. I mean, Harvey's talented, but he's small. And when you're going up against these tough run defenses, I mean, he could not get any more than 2 or 3 yards against that New England line. But go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, especially when you're a small back, you have to be able to create. If you're not creating your own space, you got to be able to create your own holes. And I like R.J. Harvey. Watched him a lot at UCF. He was a heck of a back. But in this type of weather against an extremely tough New England run defense, that's not going to cut it. So to your point, Denver needed a little bit of extra muscle in running against New England. But again, I would give all praise and congratulations to the Patriots. And for some people, they're like, "Ew, how can you?" Like, no, you always give praise and congratulations. That's a hell of a football team, and their defense, contrary to the narrative going in to the postseason, their defense has carried, and it hasn't been Drake May. He's been mid, quite frankly.
He's been very average here in the playoffs, but that's all he needs to be because their defense is playing lights out. I don't have as much of a everyone's like, oh, another Patriots dynasty. This is not Belichick. This is not Belichick and Brady. This is Vrabel and May. It's a completely different atmosphere with the Patriots now. Now, if they go on, and go to like 7 of the next 8 Super Bowls, I'm going to say the same thing. But I mean, let's not crown them a dynasty just yet. Let's see how they do next season against a first place schedule instead of the fourth place cupcake schedule that they played this year. One more thing that I want to say real quickly is congratulations to Sam Darnold. As a Vikings fan, obviously, we are immersed in second guessing and hindsight regret about letting him walk out the door, because he obviously has enough talent to lead a team to the Super Bowl, which is what we've been looking for. It remains to be seen whether J.J. McCarthy can ever rise to that level, but he is forever in Vikings lore the one that got away, especially if he wins in 2 weeks, as I expect the Seahawks will.
I find that super fascinating, how he is another prime example of what happens when especially this is now I believe his eighth year in the league,
Yeah.
and this is his fourth team. However, it's another example of that lack of patience that organizations and fan bases have with a player.
Exactly.
Because your circumstances a lot of times can determine your success more than your individual ability, especially if you are a quarterback, and especially if you're a top 5 pick expected to be the savior of the franchise. And God knows, if the New York Jets draft you, it's not happening.
Right.
And
looking back on next season, I think we have to be realistic and say that while Darnold did not play well in Detroit or in the playoffs against Los Angeles, Kevin O'Connell has got to be held accountable for the way that he play called those games. Instead, and what the front office and coaching staff and fans and media all surrounding the Vikings did was we based the entire season on Darnold's last 2 games and how we fell short, rather than focusing on the 14 regular season games. And it was like, well, blue screen of death, he's going to fail when it comes to that. And the fact of the matter was, we didn't look at the rest of the team, and we definitely did not look at O'Connell's coaching failures, which were front and center this season with J.J. McCarthy. And, before the season even starts, that entire organization is on a hot seat right now.
Exactly.
Next season,
Yep.
better win a playoff game, or we're talking about who's going to be the next head coach for the Minnesota Vikings. Spoiler alert, it's going to be Brian Flores.
That very well could be. But on that note, guys, we got to take another quick break, and we will talk a little more football when we come back here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers men's basketball coach Robert Kirby, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And we are back on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. And before we finish talking about football, I want to talk a little bit more about my Tennessee Titans. We've been doing some good things. We started off last week by hiring Robert Saleh as our head coach. We have added several other position coaches. I'm not going to touch on all of those, but I am going to touch on the big one. Unless he gets a head coaching gig with the Raiders or Cardinals, our offensive coordinator is going to be Brian Daboll. I think that's a great pickup for us. He's going to be great to work with Cam Ward. He wanted to work with Cam Ward last season to the point that the Giants actually wanted to trade up with us to get the number 1 pick, and we said no. But now, Daboll's going to get to work with Cam Ward. After all, I think that Saleh and Daboll are going to be a dynamic duo in Nashville. I'm very excited about it. Mark, I know you've got some thoughts there on some of the other coach hirings around the league, and I will let you talk on that.
Yeah, I would agree with your assessment. I think Saleh is definitely a hit. He's 2 thumbs up for me. I expected Daboll to go to Buffalo. I figured that was a slam dunk. The fact that he is coming to work with Cam Ward is going to be huge for you guys. So that's a hit for me. Kyle, what do you think about the Saleh hiring in Nashville?
Honestly, that's one of the best head coach off and OC battery combinations we potentially could have. Again, Brian Daboll was the guy that unlocked Josh Allen's potential. Mm-hmm. and got the ball rolling on where his career has turned into now. And with the Titans having a young offensive core, you have Tony Pollard back there, and at RB1, A.O. Manor, Shamir DK, like there are pieces there to develop and cultivate, and I think that's a heck of a hire. They're both hits.
Yeah. Let's go around the league and do a hit or miss assessment. I think this one is a slam dunk from all of us. John Harbaugh taking over the New York Giants. That's a hit.
Oh,
Hit.
what a beauty of a hire. Big hit.
Yeah. Let's go over to the ATL where they hire former Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski. I like Stefanski. He came out of the Vikings originally. He was two-time coach of the year in Cleveland. I'll call that a hit.
Me too.
Yeah, I will too. Just, I mean, look at the weapons the Falcons have to work with.
Yeah, I mean, and he's an offensive genius, so I think he's really, I think he's going to do good things with Michael Penix Jr. I think he's really going to unlock all of the potential of Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. I mean, they've got all kinds of offensive weapons, and Stefanski's an offensive coach.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent hire. And the scary word you just said is the unlocking the full potential of Bijan Robinson. That is horrifying for the rest of the NFL.
Yeah, he's legit. What do you got? We just got a new head coach in Pittsburgh. Mike McCarthy is back. Guys, what do you think?
I'm a big Mike McCarthy fan. I mean, he won a Super Bowl in Green Bay. He was a perennial 12 win per season head coach down in Dallas. I think he is the best pick right now for the Steelers.
Hit. I agree.
Complete L. You hired Caucasian Mike Tomlin. He has rode the coattails of one Super Bowl win 15 years ago up to this point.
Okay.
Similar to Mike Tomlin. What has Mike Tomlin done in the playoffs in the last decade? It's so similar. You hired the offensive version of him.
All right, we'll see. They still need a quarterback, and I can't imagine that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the solution for another year. Baltimore Ravens brought in Jesse Minter, I believe, from the Chargers organization.
Yep, the former San Diego Chargers, now the Los Angeles Chargers. I like that hire.
I do a lot as well because he did an awesome job with that defense.
Well, that is true. The Chargers did have a pretty good defense, and that really is the identity of the Ravens. Another former defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, moves from Green Bay to a radical weather change, down taking over the Dolphins. Green Bay had a nasty defense this year. The Dolphins really need a complete reset. Mike McDaniel's been the offensive guy for down there. I think he's going to bring a completely new attitude to the Dolphins organization. So I'm going to call that an early hit.
Me too.
I'm going to say a cautious hit simply because there's so much change that needs culturally with the Dolphins. And we'll see what he's able to do. And the Dolphins do have some really fine defensive pieces, especially up front, with guys like Chop Robinson and several others. So I'm going to say cautious hit.
Last on the list are what I would classify as two big misses. Cleveland Browns hire former Baltimore offensive coordinator Todd Monken as their head coach. Monken was fired from the Ravens before they fired John Harbaugh, or at least was told that he wasn't going to come back. I'm completely, but why you don't promote Jim Schwartz, the architect of a Browns defense that, despite how bad the team is literally a defense that no other team in the league wanted to play. Why you don't give Schwartz that job is baffling to me.
And now Schwartz is ready to leave town over it.
Oh no, he's gone. He quit. Yeah, he's
good.
Not Cleveland anymore. Yeah.
Like why would you want to work for Jimmy Haslam?
I don't know. I mean that.
So sure, let's take the guy who could not maximize Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers and say that's what we want. Brown's gonna Brown L.
Yeah, that's terrible. And then the Buffalo Bills, and this is the most baffling hire. They promote offensive coordinator Joe Brady to head coach. This is a guy who was on the hot seat for the past two seasons every time that the Bills offense struggled. And, other than all-world quarterback Josh Allen and Cook at running back, that is a team with absolutely no offensive weapons. I mean, they've got some good tight ends, but I mean, you're not going to push the ball downfield with tight ends. I can't understand why the Bills would promote him unless Josh Allen went to the owner and just said, I want Joe Brady or something like that. But I mean, it seems like the Bills have exposed themselves as another franchise with an owner who's just part of a clown show.
Oh, you're not too super familiar with Terry Pagula then. I'll just say this. He's a big reason why on the NHL side, the Buffalo Sabres have missed the playoffs for the last 15 years in a row. He's also, by the way, they are currently slotted as a playoff team on the side, so shout out them. So I guess a soul for a soul, one team gets good and the other one gets stupid, because he also owns the Sabres as well. But so you're gonna tell me we're not going to hire a coach to help improve the identified weakness of this team, which is its defense. Let's go promote the offensive guy, because our offensive guys can play defense too. Got a bunch of Travis Hunters out there. What are we doing, Buffalo?
Yeah. You know, there's only 32 teams in the NFL, and probably only half of those teams have quality quarterbacks, and the modern quarterback position has become so complex and requires this impossible combination of brains and physical talent. You can certainly see why that would be a challenge for the have-not teams to find the right guy to lead the team on the field. On the other hand, there are plenty of quality football coaches at every level, and why these teams cannot seem to find the right combination of head coach and coordinator staff. I mean, there's lots of guys out there. There's lots of talented people in the college ranks from Division I all the way to Division III. There's all types of talent to poach off of the other teams. And I think the problem that we have with the owners on the have-not side are just really rich guys who think that their money makes them football smart, or in the case of Pagula, sports smart, when clearly it does not. You know, just because you're a billionaire doesn't mean you know how to operate a sports franchise.
It's almost
Exactly.
like
Kyle,
you're mentioning people
Kyle,
by name.
Kyle, I hate to cut in, but we got to cut our segment short.
All good,
We
all good.
will talk about that in just a bit when we come back here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Mike Bueller, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And we are back on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. And Kyle had a lot of things he wanted to say about coaches, about owners that think they know more about sports than they really do, as I get my tongue tangled up. And Kyle, I'm going to let you go on that because I know you got a lot to say, so have at it.
You now, Sam, man, you were just getting around talking about owners who literally think that their money justifies knowledge. Listen, there's a reason the New York Jets always stink, especially in my lifetime. Woody Johnson.
Terrible owner.
I can't think of another owner in the NFL who spends more money worse on coaching than he does. They were blessed in the late 90s to get Bill Parcells, and they had the two Bills. Then they had Herm Edwards for a while, and then you had the few decent years of Rex Ryan. Literally since then, Adam Gase. Never forget Rich Kotite. And for the younger viewers, go do your homework on him. Dear God.
Yeah.
It's maddening. And of course, people can say, Jerry Jones. Yes. You know why? Because look at the coaches Jerry has won the Super Bowls with, and look who has stayed longer than they should have, because they knew whose boots to lick in Dallas. Jimmy Johnson wasn't a bootlicker. Bill Parcells wasn't. Meanwhile, how long did Jason Garrett coach there? And it was to an eventual detriment to the team's ability to win a championship.
Right, but I mean, Dallas didn't make the post, but they did finish second in the NFC East. They were part of the playoff conversation right up until about week 13 or 14, whatever it was. I mean, we're not talking about, you know, everybody looks at Jerry and it's like, he's kind of become, a parody of himself. But I mean, let's really look at the perennial bottom feeders. The New York Jets, terrible. Cincinnati Bengals, they have
Oh God, the Brown family.
Brown family just, they've never know, and they do a poll of all the players about all of the team facilities and all the things that they have, and Cincinnati consistently ranks last.
Mark, did you know they just now in the last 3 years got an indoor practice facility in Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And why does Joe Burrow get hurt all the time? Maybe they don't have 21st century training facilities. I would imagine that Cincinnati's a lot like the fictional version of the Cleveland Indians in Major League, where they have to take a bus instead of an old beaten up prop airplane. Cleveland, we've talked about Cleveland. Mike, I hate to say this, but I think Tennessee's ownership with Amy Adams Strunk is really suspect.
You're not the only person that thinks that. I'll be fair. And I'm hoping, honestly, I will just say I'm hoping we win this time in spite of her. But Amy Adams Strunk has taken a lot of criticism around the league. And like I said, I'm hoping this time we win in spite of her. It does seem like she's listening more to Mike Bergonzi, who, I think is a well-proven general manager and so far has done some pretty good things. So hopefully that problem can be offset a little bit. Hopefully.
The Raiders and
Mark Davis.
Mark Davis is horrible as an owner.
You want to talk about a nepo baby. Somebody just inherited the team from his father. I mean, he doesn't have enough sense to get a man's haircut, much less run a football team.
You know what he looks like to me? He looks like the Mad Magazine kid.
What, me worry?
Yeah. All teams have one thing in common. They're all in the AFC. If you look at the teams on the bottom in the NFC, I think these are just temporary situations. The New York Giants, the Mara family has a long history of good ownership. The Commanders have a better ownership group.
You didn't mention the Cardinals with the notoriously cheap Bidwell family.
Well, yeah, that is the big exception in the West. Michael Bidwell is a lot better than his father was, but I mean, I think incompetence just runs in that family. I don't think there's any other way that you can look at it. But just to kind of close this up with the Vikings, the Wilf family, I think that they've been good owners. I think that they've been good for Minnesota, but they do have this problem where they want to compete every season. They don't want to tank. They don't want to have a season where they finish with only 3 or 4 games. But the truth of the matter is, going into the 2024 draft, if they had only won 3 or 4 games, they might have been in a spot to draft Drake May or Jaden Daniels, rather than having to wait and have to kind of choose between J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix. In hindsight, what would have been better? What would have been better if all of the quarterbacks had been off the board by the time they got to Minnesota, and they're just like, well, I guess we'll just have to figure something out. They go in the season, Sam Darnold rolls, and then they sign him to a 5-year contract, and we're off and running. But as I've said before, and I'll say many times before, God hates the Vikings. It just never seems to work out in our favor. So we'll just have to leave it at that.
Good Lord.
And on that note, we are going to wrap our show for this week. Guys, we made it through. I mean, it's not easy to do when you're on your third string recording equipment, thanks to the winter storm. But I think it turned out pretty good. And on that note, I'm Mike Bueller.
I'm Mark Sanders.
And I'm Kyle Roberts.
And you have been listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.